welcome to another one-on-one episode of Defeasible Reasoning. I'm here with Noah DeSmit, the man with the golden voice.
Oh, remember that guy? Wow, I totally forgot about that guy.
He's awesome. And this started off with you sending me an article that had a picture of something that hit you pretty close to home.
Literally.
It doesn't get much closer to home than literally in the baby's
Literally in the baby's
crib. Hit me literally in the baby's.
Yeah.
That's a thing people should say.
Yeah, let's start it. No, yeah, so I saw this article. Actually, it was my wife who actually shared it with me because I think she was probably the target audience for this article that I sent you. What caught my attention straight away was the image, which was of a baby monitor, and it was the exact same model that we ourselves in our household use. We have a 2-year-old kiddo, and we still use this audio video monitor. And so that's the article. Yeah, we don't use it much, but sometimes he may start crying or making a noise, and we're like, is there a problem, or is he just figuring it out so that we can either leave him be, or do we need to go actually fix something that's wrong?
That too, is the creature that lives in the room fully mobile?
The creature is fully mobile, but
autonomy.
has not figured out how to get out of the crib yet. So thankfully,
all right.
I'm sure that's coming soon. But yeah, so I sent that article to you because it was of interest.
And I like the ex-local news person in me just loves a salacious, poorly done piece of local news video.
This would have been perfect for a May sweeps piece at the local news station.
Tonight at 7, is your baby doomed because of hackers? Tune in to find out.
Your baby will die.
Yep. Well, and even the headline that you sent me is sort of written that way. Couple shaken after baby monitor hacked. So anytime you can get shaken and baby into the same headline, people are like, shaken babies.
Yeah, it's pretty brilliant, actually. Yeah. So the reason I sent it to you is because, one, as a parent with this specific monitor, though, as we'll get into, I think it was probably a different monitor. I think they just used the image of the one that we have. Seeing the monitor as someone who uses it was alarming, but also, as you say, it seems so much like clickbait. And I wanted to check with you, this might be something interesting to talk about. Is it just clickbait, or is this an actual concern? And if so, how is this done? What are the nuts and bolts of how it's accomplished?
Well, today at Hacker 101, we'll discuss how to get into people's baby monitors.
How to steal a baby. Brought to you by Grand Rapids Community College.
Right. I thought this was interesting because it touches on a number of things. Particularly, it touches on the S in IoT, and that's for security. And you will notice that there is no S in IoT, and that's a nerd joke. It's not very funny, but it does drive the point home. So it sounds like the baby monitor you're describing uses, or that you own, is some kind of radio contraption.
Right, yeah. We don't connect it to any Wi-Fi network or anything like that. It's simply we turn on the camera transmitter, turn on the monitor receiver, and we see and hear. There's no Wi-Fi, there's no cellular plan, there's nothing like that.
So if I want to hack your baby monitor, I need proximity to your home. So maybe whoever set that up did some kind of encryption when they built it. And so the monitor has one key and the receiver has another. And possibly there's something going on there. As a young 16-year-old miscreant, I do remember being able to get into a lot of trouble with a radio scanner. And in my day, remember, wireless telephones, not cell phones, but a telephone that allowed you to pick it up and walk away from the wall, which was a huge innovation at the time. They just used open radio frequencies that you could monitor with a radio monitor. So if you were a 16-year-old with too much time on your hands, this is probably 14, 15, because 16, I had a car and that was that. But you could sit in your room or go over to a buddy's house and plug the scanner in, and you could sit there and you could listen to everybody in the neighborhood talking to their wireless phone, because there was no encryption in that radio.
That's insane.
So the same may be true with that kind of baby monitor. Maybe it's got some kind of encryption on it.
Could you just, I think you have it in front of you, could you describe what exactly happened to these people who were shaken?
These shaken parents. Tune in next for our 5-day expose on baby monitors. So according to your article, and to be fair, the first one of these articles that I found was 2013. So
Okay.
I mean, this has been a thing for a while.
Was the article I sent you old as well?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Yours was December last year. So
Right,
and
okay.
it's like, again, it's like a great local news piece. It's like
Yeah.
it's like the piece where they take a swab of your toothbrush and of your toilet to see which is cleaner, and then they grow it in a petri dish and they're like, look how disgusting you are. There's a guy who does that on the Today Show, like makes his living at it.
Oh, that's funny.
But so like this is a thing that goes on. When it got dicey was it's weird that people could sit outside your house and look at the video feed of your kid sleeping, but like who's really doing that? Because so to get back to the story, parents buy cheap IoT baby monitor that connects to the internets and then connects to their iPad so they can push the Monitor My Baby app and watch the baby,
Right.
and communicate with the baby. And so these guys are sitting at home one night and their baby is sound asleep in their bed, and all of a sudden they hear voices in the room.
Cue
And the
dramatic music.
And right, you're gonna have to get some do 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 do. Actually, it seems like these guys wound up on NPR. They were actually using it appears to be a Freddy, which is a little cute puppy dog shaped baby monitor.
Okay.
And the Freddy lets you talk, and they're monitoring it, and they see it moving by itself. So perhaps the Freddy is haunted. They hear voices talking to the baby from the baby monitor.
So the monitor that they would normally hear the baby from starts to like speak to them.
And somewhat more frighteningly, to the baby.
Right.
And like, imagine that situation writ large 100 times. You can, you're a 18-year-old Slovakian kid with nothing going on in his life who's gone on to a website and found this baby monitor sitting on the internet waiting to be just, screwed with. You've had a couple of drinks. Mm-hmm. Maybe you've partaken of other
It's
substances.
cold. You're bored.
Yeah. Let's terrify some middle-class yuppies. And so, I'm coming to get your baby. Yeah, that'll freak you out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But it's like not really a new thing.
Okay.
So like I said, this brings up the whole like question of disposable technology. We see a piece of technology like a cute puppy dog looking baby monitor and think, oh, that's cool. I'll get that. And I heard a representative of one of the electrical safety commissions that's been around since like the early 19th century. And, when we figured out that like the magic lightning that makes the machines go was dangerous, we set up standards to like make sure that people just didn't have two tongs that if they put their hand on, they'd electrocute themselves to death with. And, so we started building safety into products. It's a big deal. The headphones on our head are not going to electrocute us to death. And we just kind of take that for granted. But with this whole new evolution of IoT widgets, we're sort of bringing that assumption that we've grown up with, that like they put safety labels on things and the forks are only so sharp and we can't hurt ourselves.
For listeners, what does IoT stand for?
Oh, for listeners, the security part is the S.
Right.
And then Internet of Things.
Internet of Things.
Right. So when the internet was developed, it was for academics to talk to academics. And then we had this second wave where the businesses got in there and we decided that we would try and e-commerce stuff. And then sort of the social media thing happened and humans were talking to humans, and that was all fun and games. And sort of this next wave of the internet is things talking to things. So your baby monitor talking to its home base in China, talking to your phone is how
your
this thing
security
works.
camera in front of your house,
Right.
getting on the internet.
Correct. And so the Rosema household kind of jumped in with this year. We finally went and picked a home assistant that we were going to live with and, started doing the whole smart home thing. And all that stuff's great and fun, but brings into question like your relationship with technology. So back to the safety piece.
Right.
All this IoT junk doesn't have that. Like there's nascent efforts we're working on coming up with ways to make sure that it's secure. But currently, there's not like a regulating body that says these are the things you have to do if you're going to sell a camera and microphone that you put in the most private space in your life and then connect to the internet.
Is there any kind of regulating body for any component that regulates what security standards should be for?
Well, security as defined as like internet security.
Yeah.
Nope. Is just the wild, wild west out there.
So you could literally make any product, any device, and it could be the most secure thing or the least secure thing, and nobody would care. You can sell it.
Yeah, and it's on, you, the consumer, caveat emptor, to like be informed about the devices that you purchase and understand that, which nobody does.
Right. No, yeah.
Again, sort of the hack here is the hacker went to a webpage. It's called Shodan, and you can get what Shodan does, and there are other similar services on the internet, but Shodan's a big one. It is like Google for IoT devices, and it goes through and scans the internet. And one of the things it'll find is an El Cheapo baby monitoring system that is open to the internet. And like the specifics of how and why it's open to the internet might have had something to do with universal plug and play, which is this protocol that's kind of crappy. But long story short, there was a search engine that had this lady's baby camera on it, would be my guess. And the random person on the internet who was bored looking for something to do and knew how to get to Shodan, oftentimes can pull it together, connect to it, and start saying spooky things to your children. Yeah. I'm coming to get you. That would freak you out, right?
Yeah.
It is a freaky thing, which makes you question things like Facebook's got a product, I think they call it Portal or something, that's a screen and a camera that they invite you to put into your living room.
Yeah, I saw that.
We have Echo Dots that are basically, we volunteer to be surveilled by Amazon in order to have the convenience of being able to talk to our lights and have a relatively cheap intercom system. Not to say that there aren't efforts underway. One of the things that is going on in the sort of volunteer community, there's this project called OWASP, OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, I think is what that stands for. And they have an Internet of Things security checklist. They have discovered that people like top 10 lists. Guy I'm a big fan of named Dan Messler is one of the people who put this thing together, but they have come up with a list of things that the majority, you as a consumer should think about. They had originally thought about like making one for consumers, one for manufacturers, and one for security people, but they kind of came up with like everybody should be thinking about this stuff. And so the like number one dumb thing on their list is weak or guessable or passwords that are hard coded. So my guess about the puppy dog baby monitor, although admittedly I did like minimal research on hacking baby monitors because it's kind of trivial, but it's probably one of those. It had a weak password, it had a guessable password, and it had a web page that was on the internet. So like puppy dog baby monitor was up on this website. Shodan comes along and indexes it because it indexes the whole internet every couple of hours. And Joe Hacker's out there bored, twiddling his thumbs, looking for someone to screw with, and voila.
So someone could look at this list if they want to take a little more consideration into the devices, the Internet of Things that they may purchase.
Well, I don't know if Shodan is a good place to start, but certainly the OWASP top 10.
That's what I meant, the top 10, yeah.
And there are efforts underway to make like a standards body, a checklist of things, something that like you could have the seal of approval, like Good Housekeeping used to tell you that this was a fine blender or whatever, this is a great vacuum. We need similar standards for Internet of Things devices. So some of them have, another one's weak network services. One of the things that you don't really think about when you're buying a device like this is the ecosystem within which it lives. So like, I gave that some thought. I was on the fence between, should I do this Google thing? Should I do this Amazon thing? And I was like, who do I trust more? I was like, I don't really trust either of them. Maybe I just want to accept the fact that anything that gets said in my man cave in the basement or the great room upstairs, Jeff Bezos is going to know that.
Sure.
But then you need to have a way for it to update itself. So I got the Ring video doorbell gadget. A while back, there was a bug in it where potentially it would tell the Wi-Fi password of the Wi-Fi it was on to somebody if they did it just right. And they reached out, patched it, and upgraded it. So when you get these devices, the hardware is one thing, but you're really like building a relationship with this company that are they going to maintain this thing? And if you're thinking about things like smart lights or putting smart locks in your home, I mean, you have to think that is that company going to be backing up that product for the long term? Insecure, outdated components is another one. Do they care about your privacy? You know, I kind of accept that Amazon maybe doesn't care that much about my privacy, but Alexa's pretty sweet. So I'm willing to make those compromises. But if that's a thing you're worried about, you know, Apple's trying to make its name by doing that. And they have that whole HomeKit ecosystem that they're building out. And then one of the reasons I did this as a researcher, and this is one of the things you have to be concerned about, is how does that data transfer out of your network? So like I have enjoyed watching my stupid smart light switches and my Alexa's talking to the internet, and like I'm kind of, you know, I'm into this stuff, so I'm a researcher who like looks at those things, and that's fun to learn about. And then how does it get managed? Are the default settings insecure? So like when you turn it on, can anybody on the internet get into it and start making spooky noises at your kids?
Right.
And then last but not least, like, is it physically secure? So like in the case of a doorbell, like you walk up to the side of my house and pull that sucker off if you want it bad enough.
Sure, yeah.
The baby monitors. So that's your baby monitor sounds like it has like a physical security issue potentially that somebody could like pull up in a car, and if they really wanted to look at video of your baby.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions. The person, I would imagine that the person who ended up doing the quote unquote hacking in this particular instance that we're speaking of probably will never know who this person is. That's a pretty solid assumption, yes?
Yeah, if they had even the slightest inkling of what they were doing. This is like, in hacking cases, the problem you're describing is called attribution, attributing the event to whomever. And even when there's a lot of data, that's hard. And in this case, like, you know, that lady didn't have security monitoring. So she's not logging the traffic on her network to a hard drive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so then that was my other question. Is this actually a concern, or is this the local news station trying to get me to, in my little booklet, say that I watched them during the month of May?
Now, it's my understanding that there is digital monitoring of all the stations in this market. So nobody's doing a booklet
no
anymore.
No more book markets. Okay,
I think that's at least West Michigan's not a book market anymore. That was a little inside TV baseball.
Maybe
that
was a little for the listeners, a little too inside.
So I think that's, you know, clickbaity. So in the sense that all of those things I just described, and I think I pretty much just listed off the OWASP top 10, and nothing makes for a better podcast than just people reading lists. But the with all those concerns in mind, potentially maybe you should worry about, I mean, if you are in the market for a baby monitor, and I mean, I got 3 kids at this point, we pretty much just throw raw meat at the cages. Baby monitors.
Yeah.
But like if that is a product you intend to buy, you should take all of those things in consideration. You know, find one that comes from a reputable company that you have some knowledge of their brand, do a little Googling. Security researchers will go off on the Amazon reviews if they find something janky.
Okay.
In fact, like I think I got like smart switches thrown in with the Amazon Dots I bought for the holidays, and somebody had already done the security research. There was like some guy scroll through and find a nerd who goes off on, you know, these things report back to this port and these IP addresses in China and they're blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, the Chinese can shut off my lights now. Great. when they come over to take over, they'll do that. So yeah, I mean, in those contexts, buy from a company you think is going to keep it updated. There is some legislation that's come down called there's a Secure Technology Act that passed. They're going to do, I think that's more bug bounties for big companies, but for government interests. But they're also working on figuring out ways that we can work towards making this secure. Because I'm not, I'm kind of a crypto anarchist at heart. And this is like one of those places where like we probably need government regulation in order to make this work. Because there's no incentive to the businesses other than, the downside of being the person who gets the local news story done about them. Baby shaken by scary monitor. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's like the only market corrective for this sort of thing but it's too late. The puppy dog baby monitor people got their money.
Yeah.
Game over.
Right. Exactly. Well,
they don't care.
Well, it sounds like there's not really that much to worry about, but if you are a worrisome person, maybe check out more of what the company has done, what their reputation is, what they might do in the future to continue to make it better if you want to feel better about the security of that kind of device.
No doubt. And I've started a new book by a guy named Cal Newport called Digital Minimalism. Have you considered your relationship to the technology? Do you really need to have a monitor in there with the baby?
No, that's...
As a parent, eventually you develop like supersonic hearing. Well, my wife did. I developed the ability not to hear things.
Right.
And so like when kids were crying, she would go and, shake them herself as opposed to waiting for some hacker to do it on them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's a good point. And at some point, I'm sure we will no longer use it. We really don't use it. It's more this thing. I think it's actually maybe, to be candid, a bit of our laziness coming through.
I am not going upstairs to see what that kid is worried about.
So our kid sleeps, in the upstairs, and our TV room is in the basement. So that's 2 flights of stairs. So we're cozy and comfy, watching Netflix, what have you. He starts making some kind of noise or rolling around, and we're not quite sure if
it's really worth the trip up both
if he's got a problem or if he's going to figure it out himself and he'll be fine. So we just look, he's fine. We can stay in our comfy couch in the basement.
I get you. That's not the worst thing recently that's happened with like IoT garbage either. There was a couple of guys who were trying to get PewDiePie, the YouTube sensation, to maintain his #1 YouTube spot versus some Indian concern that makes things. And they were hacking printers and printing out little messages if you had an unsecure printer on the internet.
To like subscribe to him?
Yes, that was saying, hey, first, here's some tips on how you should lock down this printer. And second,
that's so funny.
You need to subscribe to PewDiePie so he can beat whatever the
Yeah, I think it was a channel that like it basically curated Indian music videos of all kinds.
Gotcha.
So they were just like releasing Indian music videos on the regular, all of these super massively popular artists in India. So of course, India's got some people in it, and
many is my understanding.
And I think they were all kind of subscribing to that one. So PewDiePie, is he still in #1?
Last I checked.
As of this recording?
Yeah, last I checked. The other thing those guys did was there were also insecure Google Chromecasts. So they would put up a slate or play a YouTube video on your TV for you remotely, and then like sign off with a "don't forget to subscribe to PewDiePie" kind of thing.
I wonder how much of that actually, like how many people actually saw that printout and thought, oh, I'm going to subscribe to this.
Subscribe to PewDiePie. I'm guessing that wasn't like the world's most effective marketing tactic, or
who had more just for a laugh.
The TV in there, and to get these news articles written about them in The Verge, or who had their TV turn on in the middle of the afternoon and start playing like Rickrolling videos or something.
Or now on their fridge.
Right? Are there Chromecast fridges?
Well, it's just Chromecast. Sure, okay. I thought for some reason I was thinking again of the Internet of Devices.
IoT. Well,
would a fridge be an IoT?
Oh yeah. In fact, I think on the Shodan search page it says the Google for, and then it lists off IoT devices, and I think refrigerators is one of the ones that's actually on the list. Toasters, refrigerators. And I mean, it's cute and funny, but it's also one of the biggest problems on the internet now. The Mirai botnet, one of the biggest collections of remote controlled nefarious evil devices, is pretty much comprised of crappy IoT devices that are, somebody connects their security system to the internet thinking, great, I've got a security system that I can monitor from home now and I can watch my business from there. And what they don't realize is that when they turn that thing on, there are vulnerabilities in it. The botnet detects it. It infects the next one, just like viruses used to infect from computer to computer, or worms more accurately. And the Mirai botnet has like the power to knock down really large sections of the internet right now, because it is this collection of poorly configured IoT devices that have been weaponized essentially. And the people who would need to fix that are the people who either sold those janky video recorders or whatever, or the people who use them. Like, they don't have any idea that, you know, what their security system is doing in its off hours. It's moonlighting as a internet vigilante, knocking people off the internet.
You answered my questions.
Good.
You calmed my concerns, and maybe it's time to consider throwing out the baby monitor.
Could be, or maybe if you throw out the baby monitor, you could introduce a little technology in life, get a Fitbit going on, and then think about all the steps you'd get going up and down those stairs.
I thought you were going to say for the baby.
For the baby.
Put a Fitbit on that baby.
Yeah, there you go. And man, you're not the worst I've heard about that. We have friends who had they make O2 sensors and stuff for babies now.
What?
Yeah. It's
to like measure the O2 in the room?
No, the blood.
My gosh.
I forget what that's called. When you go to the hospital and they put that
like
thing
the
in
oxygen level in your blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy
and like
cow.
baby heart rate and stuff. It's like, do you remember Aliens when they had the display of all the troopers when they were going?
Yeah.
It's like that, except for your kids. So before we sign off, what pods are you listening to these days?
Well, a new one I just started listening to is on the Earwolf Network, which I listen to a few of those podcasts on that network, and it's called Raised by TV. For those in my generation, which I will soon be turning 35. So, So those halfway to 70, as my friend politely pointed out. For those of you in that range, you would be interested in Raised by TV, I would imagine, because these two hilarious people, John Gabris and Lauren Lapkus, they essentially mine 90s television for nostalgia, and it's really, really great. Everything from TGIF to the Next Generation Star Trek to Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, everything. It's fantastic, and they're really, really funny.
You kids and your TV. So I'll do a sort of more of a boring downer of a podcast.
Okay.
Listen to. I'm a big fan of the Lawfare podcast, which covers topics concerning the law and oftentimes cybersecurity and technology, but also what's going on in the current political environment. And so they do these special editions where they have a no bull version of House testimonies and stuff. So they're doing the Bill Barr versus the committee, and they edit out all the junk and leave basically question, answer, which is a good way to listen to that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's nice.
And last night I was sitting down to listen in on that, doing the old dishes, and the announcer who intros it goes, "I'm Elena Kagan, and this is and I'm like, wait a minute, you're who?" And so I pause it. I'm like, that Elena Kagan? Yeah, that Elena Kagan's doing their intro for their podcast. So someday you're going to listen to the Defeasible Reasoning podcast, and it's going to be like, I'm Bill Gates. You're listening to Defeasible Reasoning.
Oh, that would be awesome.
All right, and that is another episode of Defeasible Reasoning. I'm Professor Andrew Rose. I'm broadcasting to you from the epic studios of Grand Rapids Community College's radio composition mecca, along with my good friend Noah Smith.
Bye.
See ya. Defeasible Reasoning is produced at the Epic Studios of Grand Rapids Community College Media Technologies Department. Epically executive produced by Noah D. Smith and hosted by me, Drew Rosen.